left hand butt or right hand boobs? You've either been asked that or you've seen someone be asked that question before.
Right hand for
butt,
left hand for
breasts.
Come on, yeah!
But why are we not asking left hand heel and right hand palm? I know, seems a little gross, but why is that? What are so magical about these two things that make men so encapsulated by the peach and the cherries? In our culture, boobs and butts are sexualized in a majority of the ads, 100% of the music videos, nearly every sports game, social media videos, mannequins at clothing stores. The list could go on and on and on. Or how about you just try going to a beach and try to look any direction without seeing several breasts and several butts barely covered. And while breasts are great for nurturing children, they don't have much of an evolutionary purpose after that. Your butt, while crucial in allowing you to stand straight and walk, is much more sexualized than your heel, which is also crucial for allowing you to stand straight and walk. Why are women covering their heel with a piece of tape to cover it from being seen? And why are we hearing about Heelgate or Free the Heel? Many researchers have tried to answer this fascination and have come to many different conclusions. Some say it's evolution, some say it's psychology, and some just come to some very freaky answers, if I'm gonna be honest. But then you also have to keep in mind that not every culture cares about butts and breasts the same level as America as a minimum, but largely the entire Western culture. I'm your host Dylan, and today I'm going to answer the question that's not appropriate to ask your sister. I'll answer this question keeping my biases out as much as possible and just looking at the research, science, and the data. And let me tell you, there is a lot of data looking into this question. Seriously, we probably could have cured cancer if all this research went to that instead of what men are into. At the end of this video, you're gonna have a complete understanding of why men are so attracted to breasts and butts and be able to flex on all your friends, giving the scientific explanation that the reason that they're into that girl is all because of the Freudian theory. Speaking of that, there's a lot of research to go through here, so I'm gonna list many potential theories that scientists and researchers have given for why men are attracted to these things. First, let's look specifically at breasts. Figuratively. The first one is the one I was talking about earlier, which is the Freudian theory. These are the ones that you will most commonly hear people talk about. Breasts are associated with mothering and nurturing and comfort, and so as a baby boy sucks on a breast in order to get breast milk to be nurtured, when they get older, they long to be able to have comforting breasts. Listen, Freud's a great guy, but the problem with this theory is that women should also experience this longing. And while there is evidence that women pay attention to breasts in levels outside of what should be normal, it's usually not an attraction type of attention like it is for men. The next theory is the evolutionary reproductive cue. Breasts are seen as a signal of fertility and reproductive health. Full symmetrical breasts may subconsciously indicate that a woman is well nourished and capable of delivering healthy offspring, making them a reproductive health cue. This misses the mark in a couple of ways. First, men don't care about the symmetry of breasts. And second, breast size and fullness and symmetry have no link in the data for reproductive health. But maybe breasts are like an ornament. You know, they're meant to be out there so that women can get the best mates for their children. Like a peacock's tail, but like a female version. This one, I can't just dispel right off the bat, because humans are one of the only species in which the women have permanently enlarged breasts after puberty outside of lactation. If you look at a female dog, you're not gonna see huge breasts on them, but they exist. Next is the scarcity theory, which is pretty simple. In societies where breasts are concealed, this can increase the desire of people to see them. You want what you can't have easily. Makes a lot of sense. The next is the most scientifically sounding theory, and that's the pair bonding theory. The theory basically says that breast stimulation releases oxytocin, which then enhances bonding between the partners. And over time, men may have evolved to be drawn to breasts as a way of enhancing long-term bonding between partners. Men who were attracted to breasts were more likely to get oxytocin releases, which would then lead to a stronger bond between the parents, which would lead to a more stable family, which would then mean that their children would grow up better and have a higher chance of reproducing. Now we've got butts, who have a little more utility than breasts, but are still of an outsized portion of sexuality. And the first reason that I think basically everyone here watching this video probably knows is the waist to hip ratio, basically the hourglass. A well-shaped butt can be really helpful in getting the ideal waist to hip ratio of 0.7, which has been shown time and time again in studies to correlate with higher fertility and a lower risk of disease. And it's likely that men are evolutionarily programmed to find this ratio attractive. Next is the idea that a round, wide butt is correlated with having a larger pelvis, which could signal to men that a woman is more physically equipped for childbirth. But the data actually says that the size of your rear does not accurately predict the size of your pelvis, so probably not a good answer. And last is the idea that a big butt means more fat storage, which is good for health. Attraction to the butt may reflect a evolved preference, and so the children are more likely to survive. Basically, bigger butt means more food, which means more likely child survives. You know, you get the gist. This is a plausible explanation, but it fails to answer why butt sizes vary so much across the world. And that's the problem with most scientific and biological answers. Why do standards vary so much? Because you have to remember, not everyone thinks and agrees with us. It's so easy to forget that when you're inside your own cultural bubble, but majority of the world does not live where you live. The Himba of Namibia have women topless without disturbance, and the Nuba people of South Sudan wrestle naked as a normal part of life. So what gives? Are men attracted to breasts and butts naturally? Or is this something that culture just teaches and reinforces upon us? African cultures are infatuated with large rears. It's a statistical fact, but European cultures are less infatuated with the size of your rear. Kim Kardashian and the movement that she helped create would be an outcast in ancient Greece or Rome, where small breasts were the infatuation of the culture. So what's going on here? My favorite answer for these cultural differences is the common sense fact that we want what we can't have. In this case, C. And taboos actually have scientific evidence behind them. When something is hard to get or forbidden, you immediately pay more attention to it. When something is scarce or in short supply, you want it more because you think there's less of it and that other people are going to get it. There's also this term called psychological reactance, which sounds really fancy, but it's really something super simple that we all know. People don't like being told that they can't have or can't do something. In American society, breasts and butts are sexualized, but there's also plenty of censorship rules across the states of the US. In most states, you're allowed to wear anything you want as a woman, as long as the nipple is covered, which is also the case with most social media apps. And for butts, I mean, for the most part, you just gotta cover your crack. But other than that, you can show the whole thing. And this mystery and partial censorship around breasts and butts, fascination is created when butts are covered by skin-tight clothes, and when large amount of cleavage is shown in V-neck tops. Because these things are being sexualized, they're covered up to protect the children. Then they get more sexualized because they're censored. Then censorship is more heavily enforced to protect the children. It's a constant cycle that grows stronger and stronger. But call back to when I asked why we don't sexualize heels. There are cultures that sexualize other parts that aren't sexualized in America or Germany or France. In Japan, the breasts of a woman weren't of too much interest, but the nape of the woman, or basically the back of the neck, was heavily sexualized and still is sexualized to this day. Stunningly, at least in my cultural bubble, there's a report from 2022 in Japan saying that schools were banning ponytails because the exposed nape could, and I quote, sexually excite the boys. That's crazy. Now let's look at how these cultural differences have played out across the world. From our earliest art, it's clear that breasts and butts were sexualized. Take the Venus of Willendorf, carved more than 25,000 years ago, which obviously show oversized breasts and butts. And another figurine called the Venus of Hall Fels, and can be dated to at least 35,000 years ago. Was she an object of ancient eroticism, a fertility idol, a symbol of survival? I don't know, possibly all three? But jump ahead to ancient Greece. Greek art praised modesty and balance. Small, firmer breasts, barely visible beneath flowing robes. Large breasts weren't ideal, and actually were part of a lot of comedy skits. The average woman was athletic, proportioned, and not voluptuous, that's for sure. The Middle Ages brought another evolution, and of course, this is a huge era. It's important to keep a note that the Middle Ages is usually said to be around a 1,000-year period, and so of course this is going to be very oversimplified. But the medieval beauty standards favored a flat, almost boyish chest. And same with your butt. It was meant to be basically flat, no roundness to it. Some women even went as far as to bind their breasts, or follow bizarre remedies from medical texts meant to shrink them. Then came the Victoria era, and again, oversimplified, which turned breasts and butts into a paradox. Women would wear tight corsets to emphasize the breasts, yet revealing even a sliver of cleavage was scandalous. And butts, don't ever think about wearing tiny shorts, or a dress that went up above the knees, or God forbid a bikini. But to make sure that in your ball gown dress that your butt was sticking out and prominent, that was the ideal. Breasts and butts were exaggerated, shaped, and showcased, but were never actually seen in public life. But then let's go to a little more of an America-centered approach, because that's where most of you guys are going to be, and during the 20th and 21st century, there was some crazy evolutions. In the 1920s, the ideal woman was flat-chested and a flat butt, just like the medieval era. But in the 1950s, the standards changed, the ideals changed to a large bust and a large butt, with the focus of an hourglass figure. And then in the 1960s, you had a huge change, where the ideal was a flat chest and flat butt and a thin person, really thin. Then in the 1980s, the idea was you be curvy in the right areas and thin in the others. It didn't necessarily have to be a large bust and butt, but you just have to make sure that you had the right curves. Then in the 1990s, it was all about being insanely thin, and it was the rise of the heroine chick, which is absolutely crazy to look back on with our modern ideals. And then in the 2010s, the ideal was a more balanced body, whatever that means, but where the thigh gap was really important, or when you sat with your legs together, you had a gap in between your thighs. And today, the ideal that most women go for is a flat stomach, but large breasts and butts, which is pretty difficult to do without plastic surgery, which is why so many women do plastic surgery nowadays. But there is a much larger array of accepted body styles in today's culture, where you can have celebrities that have a heroine chick look, or what previous generations would call fat. As you can see, culture has changed the ideal breast and butt rapidly over this time period. At first, I thought these quick changes were just women dressing the way that they wanted to, and men having to suck it up and just deal with the women that they have and push their true desires to the ground. Because, you know, how could men not always want what the current female ideals are? But then I thought about it and how crazy it would be if, for the last hundreds of years of American history, and the thousands of years of history before that, the ideal female body type, according to the male eyes, wasn't promoted by society, especially in the past when American society, and definitely societies of the past, were much more patriarchal. So boobs and butts, they may seem like simple things, but they carry thousands of years of biology, taboo, and taste behind them. The best answer to our question, to why men are so attracted to boobs and butts, is that biology plants the seed, but culture decides how we water it. What we find sexy may be shaped by evolution, but it's sculpted by society. If you enjoyed the fun topic about learning why men are attracted to breasts and butts, I'm sure you'd also enjoy a deep cultural, psychological, and biological dive into the question, are women just worse leaders than men? If you decide to give the video a watch, it has a lot of interesting conclusions to it. You can check that video out right here. Now, have fun telling your friend that the reason that they're into that girl is because of that perfect waist to hip ratio, and because society has forced their beliefs of attraction onto him, and think controversy. I'll catch you over in this video right here.